Well, my bags aren't packed yet, but I've got to get ready to go pretty soon. Flying out to Nashville, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Glad to be leaving. Perpetual rain in the Bay Area. I mean, I swear to God, I look at this forecast right now and it's just rain every single day. I could even put it up on the screen here, but I have the picture of Kyle Shanahan instead. This is crazy. I mean, I look at this and I don't see a blip of sunshine on the 10-day forecast. And this is California. However, I will say that in the big picture, it's a good thing. My dad's a farmer out in the Central Valley. We need the water in this state. My mom loves skiing up in the Sierra Nevada. We need the snow in the state. Obviously, snow and water are the same thing. So build up that snowpack in the Sierra Nevada. Let's get out of this prolonged drought cycle, but we just have to take a little bit more rain while we're at it. I'm going to be gone for the next 6 days, though, and the weather in Tennessee is literally better than it's going to be in California. So just that kind of year, it's okay. We're flying out tomorrow, knock on wood. Got to make sure there's nothing delayed. And we're headed to Nashville for the 49ers against the Titans. I was on for an hour this morning. The show was literally 61 minutes long talking about the 49ers roster. We set a record for subscribers watching during one of my YouTube lives. So let's try to break that record and let's make sure that we all subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I promised you a couple more episodes before I go wheels up to Nashville, and this is the next one. Talking about Kyle Shanahan's role in the 49ers turnaround. What exactly has Kyle Shanahan done or done differently or done well to get the 49ers from 3-5 to where they stand right now, 8-6? That's a 5-1 stretch for the 49ers. We're playing excellent football. I just got done watching the Rams play the Seahawks, and that was an ugly game. In looking at that, I think the 49ers are firing on not all cylinders, but they're firing more cleanly right now than a team like the Rams. Obviously firing more cleanly than a team like the Seahawks, despite the fact that Seattle had their number and has had their number. The 49ers obviously lost twice to Seattle this year, but 49ers Rams in week 18 to me is going to be really interesting because the 49ers obviously have the blueprint to beat Sean McVay. The Rams don't seem to be firing the way that they should be offensively and the way that they were offensively to start the season. And the Rams have 2 road games coming up before then. So today didn't tell me a whole lot about, the bigger picture for the Rams because they always beat the Seahawks. They took care of business again. But now they have to travel to Minnesota. Then they have to travel to Baltimore. Those are 2 really tough road games against contending teams. And then they have to play a 49ers team that's had their number in week 18. So there's still a very good chance that the 49ers can leapfrog the Rams. And the chances the 49ers potentially leapfrogging the Cardinals, even though they're still small, are only growing right now with how badly the Cardinals are leaking oil. So there's still a lot that's going to happen. There's still a lot of drama left in this NFC West race. And the 49ers have 3 games to go, and so do the Rams, and so do the Cardinals. And boy, buckle up because these next 3 before the playoffs are going to be a lot of fun. And the reason that the 49ers are in position to make serious noise and do some serious scoreboard watching over these final 3 weeks is because Shanahan has managed to turn around what was a really tough situation for the 49ers. Partying with Lombardi, this is, that's a name for the show. Okay. So if the 49ers may be partying with Lombardi, but not me, according to you, later in the season, we might have to have some episodes nicknamed Party with Lombardi or the Lombardi Party. That could be a nickname for my followers and subscribers on YouTube. You can be part of the Lombardi Party, like the Lombardi Dinner Party. Get it? So it could have multiple meanings. I mean, I was talking to Mike, who helps me produce the show today, and we were trying to figure out a way to, make people feel like they're a part of this. I just saw your comment right there. I think we got to go with Lombardi Party. I think that's going to be the winner. We're going to run it by him. We'll see if it works, but maybe we get approval for that one. Anyway, 49ers moving to these final 3 games, they are in this position because Kyle Shanahan managed several crucial junctures correctly for this team over the course of the past couple months. And it was desolate. It was tough when they were 3-5 following that loss against Indianapolis. I wrote about this more than once during the losing streak for the 49ers. And actually, they were 2-4 after the loss against Indianapolis. It might have gotten even lower, but in a weird way after the loss to Arizona that put the 49ers at 3-5. But in both cases, the energy level, predictably, coming out of Shanahan, coming out of the 49ers building was just off. It was just low. He was mumbling into the microphone. I called it a team-wide malaise. And it was something that the 49ers were going to have to snap out of, you know, from an energy perspective, to be able, I thought, to get the swagger and the results that they have since gotten on the field. And I think the only way to snap out of it would be to actually win. So actually winning is what gave the 49ers their initial push. And you remember on this show, I mean, we've been coming out with episodes almost every day for almost this whole year now, right? When we started this YouTube live. But when we were talking around week 5, 6, 7, around the time when the 49ers were struggling, my analogy was the 49ers had to, it was like a car that was stalled and they had to push. They had to get out and just push that car. And I said, well, the first few inches are going to be really hard. But then once that car gets rolling, you can run back into the driver's seat. You could sit down and you could kickstart that engine. And then you get on the freeway and you hope you don't stop the rest of the way until you hit the Lombardi party. And the 49ers have successfully kickstarted the car and they're now on the freeway. And now the hope is they don't get in a wreck. The hope is they keep on going along that freeway and they get to the point of the Super Bowl. There's still a lot of work to be done before then, but I want to talk about how they got that car kick-started. And it really has started with Kyle Shanahan because, you know, as much as we talk about the star power on this team, and there's a lot of it, there's talent on this team. We knew that the whole way. We can talk until we're blue in the face about the individual players and their contributions and about Garoppolo and Trey Lance and George Kittle and all this and all that. But Kyle Shanahan is the centerpiece here. He's the star of the show in that he is the guy with the final say on talent acquisition, right? He hired John Lynch, and he's also the play caller. And the 49ers offensively are at their best and really only in a sustainable state when Kyle Shanahan's play calling is melding in a cohesive way with the talent on the field. And that obviously starts with the quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo. But Shanahan is the centerpiece. And as he goes, the 49ers team will go. So he gets the blame when a lot of stuff is going wrong because it's under his watch. And he also gets the credit when the 49ers turn stuff around. And I have a few talking points here that I want to address. And these are all pillars of what I think Kyle Shanahan has done really well for the 49ers as they have managed to turn this around. Number one, I think Shanahan successfully built the framework to overcome the Mike McGlinchey injury. And I will acknowledge that some of this is still TBD, but he's built the framework. They haven't successfully overcome the injury yet, but I see the framework. And so far, during the 6-game stretch in which the 49ers have won 5 of 6, it's clear what the plan is. And this is a credit to Kyle Shanahan because that framework has been reliant on a player named Tom Compton, who prior to this season was really known as a utility lineman who didn't do much well at all. But now Tom Compton is doing at least one thing well, and that has allowed the 49ers to win as much as they have over the past 6 games. And I think I see what their plan moving forward is, but I do not want to go as far as to say that that plan is flawless. But so far, the framework is there, and that's a credit to Shanahan because when Mike McGlinchey went down against the Arizona Cardinals and the 49ers, were 3-5, it wasn't a good situation for this team, right? So in that game, you had Tom Compton have to come in and he was getting steamrolled. I mean, the 49ers were down multiple scores to Colt McCoy. The Arizona Cardinals were pinning their ears back. And I just said, oh boy, Garoppolo has to throw over 40 times against the offensive line that's not built to pass protect at some point this season. And this was one of the points. Obviously, the 49ers are going to have to beat a team or try to beat a team by throwing a lot. And this offensive line just wasn't built to do that. Now, Mike McGlinchey had been having a plus year in pass protection. The first time in his 4 seasons with the 49ers that he was actually above average in that phase of the game. So I thought that losing him and then finding out that he had torn his quad, I thought that was going to be derailing news for the 49ers. I really did, because this was a team that obviously was offense first. They weren't running the ball, especially in that Arizona game. They weren't able to establish the run the way that they wanted to, because Arizona was playing almost exclusively six-man fronts. So the 49ers, they got behind. The defense wasn't playing well at that time. I mean, that was the game where Drake Kirkpatrick got steamrolled by Benjamin. So it definitely looked like the 49ers' only way out of the quagmire would be to throw, and in more games than just that one. And it didn't look like they were going to be able to do that with Tom Compton playing right tackle and Daniel Brunskill playing right guard. But if you remember, the 49ers came out of that Cardinals game, and the next one was the Monday night contest against the Rams. And Kyle Shanahan said, to hell with it, I'm going to make my formula work. And he came out with a game in which he somehow circled the wagons, got the 49ers to rally the troops. He started Jalen Moore actually at right tackle in that game, but Moore only played one possession before getting hurt. And Tom Compton plugged in perfectly, and the 49ers were able to run at will against the Rams. Now, it took an entire offensive effort to do that. Jimmy Garoppolo had to be on point. Obviously, the blocking had to be on point. But that is my point, is that the 49ers were able to imprint their brand of run blocking even without Mike McGlinchey. And it happened with Moore and Tom Compton, and it started with that very first drive. And right tackle was essentially interchangeable, and it worked for the 49ers for the rest of the game. And Shanahan found a way for the 49ers to regain their mojo and start playing football downhill again with that game against the Rams. And I think it started up front. So you have to give him credit for that Moore Compton insertion, because I had serious doubts about the 49ers' ability to find a lineman that could make it work without McGlinchey. I didn't think they had enough depth there. And I'm still not sure if it's enough to take them across the finish line, because we've seen Compton's limitations, which come in pass protection, pop up, I think, still too often. But so far, outside of the game at Seattle, where they sunk the 49ers, on that safety and all that, but so far, Garoppolo's release has been able to get the 49ers by. And the fact they've been able to run block so well, and Compton is at the top of the league in those, in those metrics, have been able to keep the 49ers on decent schedule to generally shield Tom Compton. Now, they couldn't against Cincinnati. Garoppolo had to throw 41 times. But if Jimmy could win games where the 49ers have to throw at volume, I think that Shanahan believes that there won't be too many of those, right? I think Shanahan really believes, especially when Elijah Mitchell comes back, with Jeff Wilson churning on the ground, and with Tom Compton run blocking the way that he is, I think Shanahan believes the 49ers can play games on their own terms moving forward. So far, he's been right. Now, it's still a big red flag to me. You hit the playoffs, I think there might be a game there where it doesn't work, where defenses do play those six-man fronts, where the 49ers do have to throw at will. And it's not because of a lack of faith in Jimmy Garoppolo that I still question the 49ers' ability to go all the way. It's because of that right side of the offensive line. That's how big of a loss Micah McGlinchey's torn quad was this year. So Shanahan believes the 49ers can sustain the storm with Compton and Brunskill there. We'll see if they can. So far, he's been right. So far, you have to give Kyle Shanahan credit. So that's point number one. Point number two is related to that. Shanahan has creatively maintained an outside zone run game even through injuries. And this is something that the 49ers struggled with in 2020. This is something that they struggled with early in 2021. But when their backs were up against the wall, the 49ers figured out a way to make the outside zone game work. And that's something you absolutely have to do within the context of Kyle Shanahan's scheme. It's like the backbone of everything. If you don't have the backbone, if you don't have the structural bedrock, like if you don't dig a skyscraper into bedrock, let's put it that way, if you build it like the Millennium Tower in San Francisco, which is the sinking tower, then it's all going to be a house of cards. It's all going to start sinking at some point. But the 49ers offensive game plan consistently relies on that outside zone attack. It's what stretches the field and opens just the threat of it opens up the middle of the field for Garoppolo to attack to his receivers, who could then pick up yards after the catch. The 49ers offense works from the outside and moves in. They attack the middle of the field for yak, but they spread teams out with the outside zone. So you have to have both. It's a complementary effort. And that means that you have to have a capable outside zone runner. This is not just plug and play territory where every single running back can deliver at the level that the 49ers need. We saw them lose Raheem Mostert in week 1. That hurt. Thankfully, they had Elijah Mitchell ready to go. But Elijah Mitchell suffered something like 5 injuries this season. He might be back on Tuesday, but maybe not. So when you don't have Mitchell and you don't have Raheem Mostert, what do? Well, the 49ers, this was also before Jeff Wilson was back, found themselves in a bind. And Shanahan was willing and able to think outside the box. He brought Deebo Samuel into the backfield. Keep in mind that Deebo Samuel was a 1,000-yard receiver at the time that the 49ers moved into the backfield. And he started running outside zone with precision. He was hitting the right hole. He was doing it better than most running backs in the league. And that was huge for the 49ers to be able to stay afloat throughout the middle part of this season when they were, starting to turn that ship around, when they're starting to push that car. But before they had a lot of momentum, they needed to find a way to bridge the gap at running back. They're in a lot better position now because Wilson is running hard for him. 21 carries, 110 yards. He has some fresh legs, I think, because he didn't have to play for the first part of the season, and he's over the knee injury. So Jeff Wilson is insurance. Running into that dark place, 49ers love that. Elijah Mitchell might be back Thursday. If not, I think he'll be back the week after that against Houston. That all means that they can move Deebo Samuel back to receiver and still have him run occasionally, but they don't need him to run at volume anymore. But while it was necessary, Shanahan had the foresight to realize, that this is something we have to do to stay afloat. We have to figure out a way to make it work. And I thought that him creatively maintaining that outside zone run game, even through all the injuries, primarily using Deebo Samuel, was huge for this team. Next one is related to that as well. They all tie together. Kyle Shanahan managed the Brandon Aiyuk situation properly. There are a lot of people that fed off of this because they got their clicks. They got, I hope they got their views. I hope they got their clicks. I hope they got their drama. But there really wasn't any in the 49ers building surrounding this situation. There was frustration and there was disappointment that Brandon Aiyuk started off his training camp so well, but then got hurt, hamstring strain, and then wasn't really the player that the 49ers needed him to be throughout the first few weeks of the season. But Shanahan didn't press the panic button at the time, and the 49ers are better for it. There are people who advocated for him to press the panic button and wanted him to force feed Brandon Aiyuk the football, even though he wasn't really getting open and he wasn't in a good enough rapport with the quarterbacks to sustainably get the job done during those first few weeks after he missed some time due to the hamstring injury. There was certainly a temptation to do that. Joe, just give Brandon Aiyuk the ball on a quick screen and let him run. Let's see what happens. But Shanahan realized this. It's an old proverb, and I tinkered with it a bit. If you give a wideout a fish, he'll eat once. But if you teach a wideout how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Early in the season, the 49ers could have force-fed Brandon Aiyuk and pretended that everything would be fine if they did that, but it wouldn't have been sustainable. It was extremely important for the sustainability of this offense and its success down the road, especially once defenses start to make film counter adjustments over the course of the season. It was extremely important that the 49ers developed an offensive system in which 3 separate targets had plus rapport and plus productivity potential with Jimmy Garoppolo. They only had 2 early in the season, and one of them was hurt and wasn't getting used all too much. So it was really only Deebo Samuel. Fast forward to now, and you have Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Aiyuk as plus performers in the efficiency of the quarterback-receiver connection, and they're all reliable. They all have rapport with the quarterback. They're all playing with confidence. And that balanced offense is a top 5 offense for the 49ers, and it's one that could potentially lead them deep into January. And the 49ers attained this not by force-feeding Aiyuk the ball, but through dozens and dozens of conversations between Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Aiyuk. Good coaching behind the scenes. He set his standards for Brandon Aiyuk and made them clear, and he let Aiyuk meet them on the practice field to practice in a way that would be sustainably carried over into games. John Lynch came on KMBR a little bit earlier today, and he had a great quote. He said, quote unquote, "When you play receiver here, you're going to get your tail coached. That's one thing. You do it or you don't play." Lynch pointed out that Kyle Shanahan himself was a former wide receiver at the University of Texas. Mike McDaniel, the 49ers offensive coordinator, was a receiver at Yale. Wes Welker was obviously a receiver for the New England Patriots, and he's the 49ers receivers coach. There are a lot of receivers on this 49ers offensive coaching staff, and they all have high standards. And they made sure that Brandon Aiyuk lived up to those high standards, and you have to give Kyle Shanahan and his staff credit for not flinching, for making sure that Aiyuk did, it wasn't because he wasn't working hard enough. They wanted to direct his work intentionally to where it would turn into that sustainable situation, to where they would teach the wideout how to fish so he can eat for a lifetime. And Brandon Aiyuk has been eating ever since the game in Chicago, where I thought his rapport with Garoppolo came back. So Shanahan, through, I think, good patient coaching, didn't listen to all the Twitter nonsense, and there's a lot of it out there. Didn't listen to, all the people screaming for, everybody to be fired or for Aiyuk to be cut or whatever they're saying, or Aiyuk to be force-fed. All that's just noise. There's so much outside noise, and Shanahan has been able to tell what's been noise and what actually has needed to be improved, right? And the Aiyuk situation was all noise. There was never a doghouse. So it was a situation where Aiyuk just had to be better. He wasn't good enough after the hamstring injury. And the 49ers were playing him, but he didn't have the rapport needed with the quarterbacks. And they got him to a point where they could play him, but he did have the rapport and he did have the confidence, and he was able to attack games with the same vigor that he attacked practice. And now Brandon Aiyuk is eating every single time he goes out there. And that means the 49ers offense, by extension, is eating as well. Point number 4. Shanahan was able to break the negative energy malaise that I wrote and talked about so much. And his old positivity and his relaxation is back. Today, I asked Shanahan, have you slept at the office this week since it's a short week? And, the game is on Thursday. And, instead of like a low energy answer like we probably would have gotten early in the season, he just kind of grins and says, does it look like I slept here? And that was his way of saying yes, that I have slept in the office. He looked fine. He didn't look too tired. But the jokes are back with Kyle Shanahan, and the positive energy is back. And, this is kind of a circular thing. It's probably back, and I'm almost certain that it's back because the 49ers have won. So some of the stuff that Kyle Shanahan did earlier, like trust his defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans, to improve that defense. I mean, he didn't cut Josh Norman in a knee-jerk fashion. I mean, even though Josh Norman hasn't been good, that wouldn't have helped the 49ers. He didn't do anything knee-jerk with Brandon Aiyuk, and that's helped the 49ers. So all those good decisions, all that good coaching, that patience, that turned around into wins, and that's in turn given back to the 49ers with a better mood in the building, and that's how momentum works, right? Then hopefully for the 49ers' sake, that continues to snowball. The positive energy turns into more swag on the field, better play on the field, and the team keeps on winning games. So maybe this is not a thing to directly credit Kyle Shanahan for, but it's certainly a byproduct of the other good stuff that's happened. And finally, schematically, it's tough because we're outsiders, right? We could look at the game tape and we can analyze some of the decisions that Kyle Shanahan is making, some of the routes that his players are running, some of the choices that his key player, like quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, is making. But it's really tough for lay people to make fair criticisms of play calling and things like that. But Shanahan himself did admit that he wasn't really in a play calling stride. And he said that after the loss to Indianapolis in the monsoon. He wasn't able to find that rhythm that, normally is something that we associate with vintage Kyle Shanahan. As of late, I think he's definitely in his stride. The 49ers, for example, went into that game against Atlanta with a clear sense of purpose offensively. And they knew that Atlanta played a lot of zone defense. And they knew that archaic zone defense that a lot of the league is starting to abandon right now because of people like Kyle Shanahan and how he attacks it. They knew they were going to be able to attack it very specifically. The play to Brandon Aiyuk comes to mind. Brandon Aiyuk, 36-yard catch, ran a slant that was a zone beater. The 49ers were so excited about this play during the week and so sure that it was going to work that Aiyuk actually false started on the 49ers' first chance to run it because he was so excited to run it. But Shanahan said, run it again. Splits Juszczyk out to the slot. Juszczyk takes the linebacker to the boundary. Aiyuk crosses the field. Boom, Garoppolo, perfect throw, perfect catch in stride. Not easy to do. 36-yard gain. We saw stuff like that all day long. 49ers beating the Falcons zone. It was just a sign that Kyle Shanahan has his play calling swagger back. Now, it could be a little circular logic, kind of just like point 4. the positive negative energy thing. I think once you start winning, that rhythm, play calling wise, will feed onto itself. But hey, if Shanahan is blamed for when it's not going well, he should also get credit for when he gets the snowball effect of stuff going well. And we criticized Kyle Shanahan plenty on here when stuff was not going well because the 49ers were in that malaise that he couldn't snap out of. But sometimes it's just not as easy as pressing one button or doing two things. Sometimes you have to continue coming to work diligently every day. You have to do the small things right. You have to make the right decisions coaching Brandon Aiyuk. You have to make the right decisions about which rookies to play, when to keep Josh Norman in the lineup, when to tweak certain things from a play calling perspective. And each little brick might not individually change your fortunes, but I hate to say brick by brick, but after a while, once you assemble enough of those bricks and build the whole wall, it all turns around. And the 49ers were able to get that spark. They were able to turn it around. They were able to get that car pushed and onto the freeway and get that engine jump started around the time that they beat the Rams. That was huge. And then obviously they beat Jacksonville. They had the setback against the Arizona Cardinals. Well, first it was the Rams and then the setback, right? Trying to remember. No, the Rams was after the setback. I have to go back and look at the schedule, but either way, they were 2-4, then they were 3-5, and they got all the way through it. I'm going to look up the schedule because I'm a little bit concerned now that my memory is failing me. In general, the 49ers were able to I think, take positive energy and allow it to snowball with that one hiccup against the Arizona Cardinals. No, they beat the Bears first. There you go. So they lost to the Colts. That was the really rainy, low energy post game where people thought that Shanahan was just going to clean house. Credit to him that he didn't. I don't think he was ever really planning to clean house, but he was just in a foul mood after that game. Then they beat the Bears in Chicago. That was really the start of the turnaround, but they, you go 2 steps forward, take 1 back. Then they lost to Colt McCoy and the Cardinals the week after that. And it was after the Cardinals game that the 49ers really hit their stride with the win over the Rams. Then came the win over the Jaguars. Then the win over the Vikings. Then the loss to the Seahawks. So again, they took a step back. And then the victory over the Bengals in overtime, followed by the win over the Falcons. So that's 5 out of 6 dating back to the game against the Rams. But you could go even further, and the 49ers beat the Bears in that Halloween game that I thought really got them on the right track. So it's been an intricate process to turn this around, and the 49ers still need to keep their foot on the gas pedal, but they're favored against Tennessee. It's a tough week. Kyle Shanahan sleeping on his couch in the office, and the 49ers fly out tomorrow, but he hasn't gone in the right direction. And it's important to break down the details as to why. It hasn't been a one-size-fits-all approach of coaching. He's had to do a lot of small things right, and they've certainly added up. This is a pre-record. This is not a pre-record. I'm answering your question right now. So I want to see if anybody has good questions. Emmanuel Mosley will come back. This is casual viewer answering the question. Rams game at the soonest, week 18. I don't think that the 49ers are going to see Aaron Banks this year unless somebody gets hurt. At this point of the season, I think they're going to go with continuity at their offensive line, and that's okay. If Brunskill keeps on delivering good pass blocking, Max shields him in the run game, that's their best option this year. Fast forward to next year to see what happens. I think when they drafted Banks, they wanted him to play this year, but sometimes the truth just isn't what you want it to be, and I think that that is what the situation is right now. I just watched this as well. Locker room does love Jimmy Garoppolo. He is a hell of a leader. I recommend everybody watch the Mic'd Up video on the 49ers Twitter if you have a chance. Any more questions? Is a run for the NFC Championship possible? Absolutely. The best team in the NFC right now is the Green Bay Packers, and the 49ers had them beat. Garoppolo led what should have been a winning drive, and the 49ers couldn't get it done. The defense blew it in the final 37 seconds. Since that week 3 moment, the 49ers defense has gotten a lot better. I think the offense is a lot more consistent, and this team has a verve. It has an identity now. They're absolutely contenders. They've been there and done that. So we'll see what happens with this 49ers team. Do I think Jimmy will return next season? I said this morning, I'm still putting it at only a 30% chance, but I think the 49ers don't know. So I think it's a situation where We're just waiting to see what's going to happen for the 49ers because they're evaluating this in a way that they're not going to cross the bridge of decision until they get to it. And I think that's a smart way to handle it. I got my first super chat tip. That's awesome. Thank you to Sunshine Good for the super chat tip. I love that. I just turned those on today. I didn't even know that was a thing. So thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm going to buy a beer in Nashville and drink one in Sunshine Good's honor. He asked good questions on here. She, he, I don't know. I don't know if it's who you are, but I really do appreciate you. So thank you so much. See, there it is. $4.99. I love that. Thank you. This makes me happy. This is good stuff. Yeah, the Titans offense doesn't look good. The Titans offense has been struggling. Tannehill's having a bad year. He's throwing too many picks. 14 picks leads the NFL, tied with Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. I think that the loss of Henry combined with the loss of his receivers, A.J. Brown should be back, but they don't have Julio Jones right now. It's really been tough. It's a run game, play action offense, and Tannehill behind a poor offensive line when it comes to pass protection has really struggled. Now, the Titans are better at run blocking, so they can still run even without Henry, but it's a very limited offense compared to what it is when it's healthy. They do have a pass rush, so that can be concerning. I talked about that in an hour-long preview this morning. 49ers are going to have to come to play. The two safeties can play also. Bayard and Hooker for the Titans. Those guys are good players, and they can disguise zone coverage well. There's going to be a lot on Jimmy Garoppolo if the 49ers can't run at will in this game. And I think Tennessee's good enough to stop them from running at will. So Garoppolo's going to have to mix in some throwing in this game. And hey, it might be a throw first game depending on if the Titans line up in 6-man fronts. But it's a 3-4 defense. They've been better against the pass than against the run. And it's just one of those situations where this Tennessee team at home coming off a loss on Thursday after the 49ers have traveled, that could be tough. On paper, the 49ers are better. But if you look at the Titans' strength defensively, it's those safeties and that pass rush. Garoppolo and the 49ers pass blockers are going to have to deliver in this game. They're going to have to bring their A game or else things can get hairy on the road. Another one. Thank you. It was all good. I promise I won't put every one of these up there, but I appreciate all you guys. That's pretty cool. I love that stuff. And yeah, like the video. Love that too. Thanks, guys. Anyway, I'm going to record another video right now. Maybe I go live with it. Maybe I save it for tomorrow when I'm flying. If you're in Nashville, come up and say hi to me. It's going to be a fun game for the 49ers on Thursday night. But I just wanted to cover some of Kyle Shanahan's turnaround. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Everybody take care. Oh, and subscribe. Don't forget. Thanks, everybody.